Good afternoon. It's Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. Mental Health Israel. Seek help and end the stigma. On the news this afternoon. Court upholds President Tinubu's emergency declaration in River State. Governor Fubara sacks commissioners, public office holders. INEC clarifies position on validity of Edison Ehi's resignation from River State House of Assembly. Former Vice President Atiku speaks on withdrawing from 2027 presidential race. On the foreign scene, Israel intercepts Gaza flotilla, detains Greta Thunberg, other activists. I'm Ifechukwu Muonyili with the news. Now, the Federal High Court in Abuja has dismissed a suit instituted against President Bola Tinubu challenging the March 18, 2025 proclamation of a state of emergency in River State. The judgment by the Bema Briggs and against the emergency rule. Justice James Omotosho held that the 5 plaintiffs lacked the legal power to institute the case. The judge said such a case as constituted can only be determined by the Supreme Court. In a judgment on Thursday, the judge held that none of the 5 plaintiffs claimed to be members of the State Executive Committee, members of the House of Assembly, or suffered any injury greater than the rest of the people of River State. The court also held that none of the plaintiffs claimed to have the fiat of the Attorney General of the state to initiate a case. Justice Omotosho said that the claim of President Tinubu that he of emergency to avoid a looming breakdown of law and order was not challenged or disputed by the plaintiffs. Justice Omotosho further held that the claim of breach of fundamental rights by the plaintiffs against Tinubu did not hold water because the appropriate law on emergency rule order was invoked by President Tinubu to save the unpleasant situation. Justice Omotosho said the case was frivolous and baseless because the mandate of other people of River State was not obtained before instituting it on their behalf. As you may know, the declaration of the state of emergency to the suspension of the River State Governor Muonyili Fubara and members of the River State House of Assembly for 6 months. INEC in River State has dismissed report on social media suggesting it refuted to accept the resignation of the member representing Ahoda East Constituency 2 in the State House of Assembly, Edison Ehi. This clarification comes after some reports quoted the River State Resident Electoral Commissioner as saying Ehi is still a lawmaker. The lawmaker resigned during the political crisis in River State to become Chief of Staff to Governor Muonyili Fubara. But in a statement, the Commission says the decision to conduct a by-election lies solely with its headquarters, not the resident electoral commissioner. It explains that a by-election can only be triggered after INEC receives a formal notice from the appropriate legislative authority declaring a seat vacant. INEC also notes that the resident commissioner's opinion on the matter was wrongly presented as an official policy statement. The Commission insists that any claim it rejected the lawmaker's resignation is false and has no legal basis. It adds that once the River State House of Assembly transmits a valid declaration of vacancy, INEC will begin the process of organizing a by-election. Now, River State Governor Muonyili Fubara has relieved all commissioners and public officers affected by the recent Supreme Court judgment of their appointment with immediate effect. He made the announcement during a valedictory session with his cabinet to mark Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary at Government House, Port Harcourt. Governor Fubara thanked the outgoing officials for their service and contributions to the state's development of the figure, while appreciating citizens for their. Also, River State Governor Muonyili Fubara says the celebration of Nigeria's 65th independent anniversary is beyond the birth of a nation, but the resilience, unity, and strength that defines the citizens. In his Independence Day message, Governor Fubara said River State stands proud of its contribution to Nigeria's growth. He noted that the anniversary is a time to reflect on the nation's journey, recognize the challenges, and celebrate the progress made. Governor Fubara also pledged to keep Rivers shining as a beacon of hope and opportunity. He assured that the state remains committed to fostering unity, driving development, and building a future where every citizen can thrive. Meanwhile, some economists have criticized President Bola Tinubu's Independence Day broadcast to Nigerians yesterday. In his broadcast, President Bola Tinubu assured Nigerians that the worst is over as his tough reforms are beginning to yield results. President Tinubu also added that the foundation of a new Nigeria has been laid, and with collective effort, the nation will become more. Speaking with our correspondent, a professor of economics at the University of Port Harcourt, Orwell Ntega, says some of the claims show the president is not in touch with the country's economic realities. He spoke with our correspondent, Shibi Oruwari.
I'm not sure that the advisors of the president are giving him the real situation on ground. The energy sector reform, the financial sector reform, they may claim that they are working, but we've not seen the effect. It has not really trickled down into improving the living conditions of the people. And once people don't feel it in terms of there is reduction in price and there is improvement in the welfare, those reforms have no business with the people.
Professor Ntega explains that government policies have yet to improve the living standards of citizens.
I don't think they're in touch with the people. I just moved around the streets and I could not even see people dressed in the usual national color like it used to be. That shows that really people are not happy and people are suffering and people are hungry. If we talk about reduction in price, where has price gone down? You go to market, you can't see pepper of 500 is not there again. So both food and every other item, transportation cost has not reduced. House rent is going up every day.
On his part, political economist at the London School of Economics, Dr. Uche Igwe, says the president's claim will only be taken seriously when the reforms begin to impact lives meaningfully.
How these reforms translate to food on the table of the common man. It impacted directly on the cost of living. There were inflationary trends on food, on transport, and on every aspect of our national life. So, as well-intentioned as the reforms may mean and may be, what will give us verifiable impact is when these cost implications begin to reduce.
Dr. Igwe also outlined how the results of the government's policies can be measured.
And until that reflection is felt, nobody will believe him. We need to believe him when we feel the verifiable impact on our cost of living, or we have a clear result through palliative that will help us cushion the effect and implications of this inflation that was occasioned by the rise of cost of living due to the removal of the fuel subsidy.
Meanwhile, it's not just economists who are unhappy with the president's address. Human rights advocate Festus Oguche says the broadcast did not reflect the true state of the economy of Nigerians' condition. He spoke with correspondent Mekotoka.
The president is not true to himself, and if he's true to himself, then he's not speaking to truth on the conditions of Nigerian citizenry in terms of their ability to take care of themselves, to fend for themselves. Go along the streets and see hunger, poverty, starvation reeking all over the place. Excruciating poverty is on the ground.
Now, he also faulted the development index presented by the president, insisting that the manufacturing and education sectors are in decline. Now, according to him, insecurity is also getting worse.
And he did not quite address the issue of security very well, and that's what ravaged the land. The level of unemployment, the fact that the youth are not engaged, it's a very big problem. I think we have a government that's much, much richer than the people, and they still collect from the people to enrich the government when the people are incapacitated.
For rights activist Charles Jaja, he insists there is nothing to celebrate. Speaking with correspondent Mekotoka, Jaja said Nigeria still relies heavily on borrowing and operates under weak institutions.
There's nothing to celebrate. It should be a time for deeper reflection. A nation that is totally being blessed by God in all ramifications, yet being punished with ruthless leadership and leaders. Nigeria as a whole has no plan as far as I'm concerned. We rely so much on borrowing to run the economy. Can we say we are independent in its real sense? And a situation where there's also no rule of law, where the law only takes its effect when it comes to an average citizen or those who do not have money, but those who are in government are being shielded and protected.
We have a boutique owner, Ihoma Brides, who makes good money by selling green and white fabrics during Independence Day celebrations on the news. In a chat with Nnamdi Samwala, she says this year's Independence sales have been very poor.
Between Valentine's sales and this October sales for Independence, I think I have more sales for Valentine because that period was actually love period and my sales was okay. But for the October sales, no, because I feel like people don't see any reason for Independence anymore because it's not something that is really kind of giving us that vibe. And it's not like before people take it very important, but now nobody has that time.
Some residents spoke on why they chose not to wear Nigeria's national colors.
What are we celebrating when there's insecurity in the country, there's a high level of poverty, people can hardly feed. And so you only celebrate when things are moving. I think the leaders should go back to the drawing board and understand the basis of the problems. Most of the policies that our government make don't seem to sit well, don't seem to reflect the realities of the society.
I'm not wearing green and white. Nigeria is not even patriotic to me, so there's no way I can return that favor. If they stop embezzling, they will channel those funds to something that will better the lives of citizens.
No green and white. Even if they dash me, I will not wear. I'm not proud of our leaders. I'm not proud of the way they are running the country. The leaders should change some laws that they have made that is favoring only them.
Still to come, former Vice President Atiku speaks on withdrawing from 2027 presidential race. Stay with us.
This is the news on 92.3 Nigeria.
Welcome back, and now the rest of the news. The National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Senator Samuel Anyanwu, has countered the statement issued by the National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunagba, on Wednesday, announcing the dissolution of the Akwa Ibom State ESCO of the party. Anyanwu described the pronouncement as null and void. Senator Anyanwu, in a statement, said there was no sitting of the NWC and that it is not in the official capacity of the National Publicity Secretary to take actions relating to the implementation of the decisions of the National Working Committee of the party. Yesterday, the National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Debo Ologunagba, while announcing the dissolution, said a 31-member caretaker committee has been constituted to run the affairs of the party for 3 months. A member of the opposition coalition, African Democratic Congress, ADC, to abandon his presidential ADC view with BBC House Service on Wednesday. He said his interest in the 2027 race is not about personal ambition, but about providing a credible alternative to rescue Nigerians. The former vice president charged younger Nigerians to actively participate in politics, stressing that he would fully back them if picked. Tima on Thursday returned to Abuja after a week-long international mission where he represented President Bola Tinubu at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly UNGA in New York, and concluded strategic engagement in Germany during the high-level meetings in New York. The vice president delivered President Tinubu's national statement in which Nigeria called for comprehensive reforms of the United Nations, including a permanent African seat on the Security Council. He also championed Africa's sovereignty over its estimated $700 billion mineral resources, urging global equity and resource governance. Shettima also met with United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who commended Nigeria's bid for a permanent Security Council seat and later showcased Nigeria's $200 billion energy transition opportunity to global investors in line with the administration's renewed hope agenda. And now the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has confirmed more than 10 deaths 24 passengers rescued and 42 still missing from the Kogi boat mishap. In a post on Thursday, NEMA says search and rescue operations continue. The agency said the incident occurred on Tuesday evening when a boat carrying a shore crude oil export terminal on October 8, 2025. The facility is the first indigenous onshore terminal to be built in Nigeria by a wholly indigenous company and the only one to be built in the country in the last 50 years. In entertainment, Nigerian singer has become the first female African artist to have a single sell over 10 million units in the United States. This is her collaborative hit with Future and Drake. Wait for You hit 10 million unit sales mark in the US recently, according to chart monitoring platform Chart Data. Also, Afrobeat singer Rema has been featured in the 2025 Time 100 Next list, which spotlights the world's most influential rising star. You're wondering about the Nigerian singer being mentioned. Her name is Thames. Now, in sports, Jude Bellingham has been named England's Men's Player of the Year for the 2024-2025 campaign. The 22-year-old midfielder scored once in 8 games as England achieved Nations League promotion under interim boss Lee Carsley before beginning World Cup qualifying with new manager Thomas Tuchel.
And now we bring you news from around the world.
Heading to Gaza and arrested several activists, including climate campaigner Greta Thunberg. The flotilla had been streaming live video for safety as its boats approached Gaza. Earlier, UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese and Colombian President Gustavo Petro called for the mission to continue without interference. But Israel insists the volunteers are attempting to breach what it calls a lawful naval blockade, while critics argue international law protects humanitarian aid effort.
This is the news. 3 Nigeria Info.
On the news this afternoon, we told you that a federal high court in Abuja has upheld President Tinubu's emergency declaration in Rivers State. Governor Fubara has sacked commissioners, public office holders affected by a Supreme Court ruling. INEC has clarified its position on the validity of Edison Ehi's resignation from Rivers State House of Assembly. On the foreign scene, Israel has intercepted Gaza flotilla and detained Greta Thunberg and other activists. The news was edited by Onyeka Chimusu. To reach the news team, send an SMS or WhatsApp to 0808-721-7215. I'm Ifechukwu Muonyili. Many thanks for listening.